What's up, my dudes? Today I'll be teaching you a few different witch tips that I believe any new witch should know if they're just starting out witchcraft, and maybe they don't really know much about witchcraft, but they want to know a little bit more, and maybe they don't really know the type of practice they want to do, but they want to know a little bit about the practice, or they want to know something in particular. If you're a new witch and you're practicing and you're finding this video, just leave a comment down below and I'll be coming back to this video, and any sort of tips that anyone else either wants to share or they want to know will be in this video. And if I feel that it can be a whole new video, I'll do a part 2 to this. And then also, before the video starts, I would just like to say thank you for the 60 subscribers that I have. I think that happened yesterday or 2 days ago. But yeah, I got 60 subscribers. I'm very happy about that. I'm actually starting to get more traction. I'm starting to get a few more commenters and everything, and that's great. Remember, if you would like to know anything related to witchcraft, or you just have a question about something I said in a future video, or just any of my past videos, just leave it in the comments. I answer questions from old videos and my new videos, so just put it in the comments and I'll be sure to answer it or do a complete video on it. My first tip for beginner witches is starting a grimoire or a book of shadows. Now, you could either have a plain notebook like this where you create everything custom, or you just have a plain lines notebook, so you just write out everything. Maybe if you want to draw, you can do that in the borders, but just having some sort of notebook or something that you can write in will be very helpful when you're starting, just because when you're starting, any new information you find out, you want to be recording, so you can know that for either future spells or just in a year or two when you want to look back at when you first started practicing. You can look at your grimoire and see what you're doing, see what spells worked for you, what spells didn't. Just a good thing to have around if you're going to start practicing. I'll be doing a video on starting a grimoire, just laying it out. If you practice multiple different types of witchcraft, just because you practice multiple different practices does not mean they all have to be in one book. You can have them in different books and just have them sectioned out based on what they actually are. So if you're a moon witch or a nature witch or an astrology witch, you can have this segmented out so each individual task deserves its own book. So if you would like to do that, you can. You could also just have a large book or a binder and just have everything in one place and just have it sectioned out. If you want to create a scrapbook or a craft book, I believe they're called, then you can just do it like that. And the second tip I have for you is to focus on your intent rather than your tools. You can have 30 different tools and you can have 30 different ways to do a spell, and you can do it multiple different ways, but if your intent and what you're trying to manifest isn't clear in the spell or ritual that you're doing, it's not going to come to fruition. So you need to make sure whenever you're doing any sort of spell, yes, tools and herbs and everything, they can help your spell and they can make it more likely to succeed, but your intent and what you're focusing on yourself should be at the utmost of importance. So this means focusing on shadow work and self-care and meditation and things like this to work on yourself, so that whenever you do try to do any sort of spell, then you can do it clearly and have a good outcome and have a precise outcome that you want, and not just doing a spell when you're lacking something and then you're trying to make up for the spell. Before you do any sort of spell or ritual, you want to make sure you're in a good frame of mind before you start, and also you want to make sure that you're in a good environment. These two things are very important, especially when you're beginning and you maybe aren't as in tune with yourself. You need to make sure that you can ground yourself and center yourself so that you can have the best outcome for your life. The good thing with tools is you can substitute out whatever you need for something else. So say if you don't have a certain herb, there's always a substitute or a different alternative that you can use. And this is the same thing with crystals. So if you have a certain crystal and maybe you want to have a certain energy and maybe you don't have that crystal and you want to still apply that energy, you can charge any crystal with more energy that you want to attract to you. So say if you have a piece of rose quartz and you want to attract a certain emotion towards you, If you charge that crystal to attract what you want into it, that will help you, but it's the tool in itself is helping, and also your intent is helping. So it's both things. You need a little bit of tools and you need more intent. That doesn't mean you cannot do a spell without tools. That just means if you are just practicing and maybe you don't really know how to do a bunch of spells, using different types of tools and different techniques can help you, and also help you practice and learn different elements to whatever it is that you're trying to do, rather than just focusing on your intent. Because intent is good, but you also need some tools when you're starting. And my third tip for beginner witches is cleansing, charging, and manifesting. Now, these are the three things that I think all beginner witches should start off with, just because no matter what your experience level is, whether you've been practicing for 1 year, 5 years, or 20 years, you just want to keep these a constant, because you're going to be doing them whenever you're doing any sort of spell or any sort of ritual or anything spiritual that you're going to be doing. And whenever you're cleansing, you want to make sure you're cleansing your space, you're cleansing your mind, and you're cleansing whatever sort of materials that you're going to be working on, whether that be when you first get them and you're just cleansing them just to bring them into your home, or you're just cleansing them because you're actually going to be doing spell work on them. Whenever you bring in something and you have either energy on it that you don't want, or you don't know what the energy is, or you just have something and you just want to cleanse it, whenever you're doing something like this, you want to make sure that you cleanse it before you enter your home. I know some people, they just like to cleanse things in their home and then cleanse their house. You can do it that way. There's no harm in that. It's just that I prefer to do it outside of my home. And also with cleansing, I have a whole video on cleansing if you would like to know a few different ways to cleanse. It's going to be in the description, so if you would like to know how to cleanse, it'll be in the description. And charging, this is also going to be very important whenever you're starting, just because, so say if you have some moon water that you want to charge with a certain intent while you're doing either your spell work, or you're drinking it, or you're using it for your plants, or anything like that. So what you would want to do is, you could either write sigils on it, you can use incense, you can charge it with your hands, you can charge it with crystals, but any sort of charging that you want to do, you want to make sure that you're putting your intent and you're putting your pure focus into whatever it is that you're charging. If you're trying to charge, say, your crystal or your moon water, and your mind is going all over the place, or maybe you keep getting distracted, you have to get up and down and do different things while you're trying to charge something, just stop what you're doing. If it's not working out, it usually means that it's not the right time to be doing the thing that you're trying to do. So if you're trying to charge something and maybe you're finding that you can't really focus on it, or you're not putting the right intent into whatever it is that you're charging, try putting it away, do something else. Maybe you need to reset yourself, meditate, do something else, chill yourself out. Whenever you're doing something that you're going to be putting your intent in, you want to make sure that your emotions and what you're feeling is balanced first before you start putting anything into something else. And this kind of goes along with manifesting, just because if you are having a certain intent in your spells or your rituals, you want to make sure that that's your top priority and that's what you're putting your energy towards. You can be doing spells and rituals for multiple things at once, but the more intent and the more you try to manifest on one particular thing, the faster it will come to fruition. And also you'll find that the more you focus on the little things and doing things in particular, the better your overall experience with the craft will be. And that goes for any sort of craft that you're going to be doing. The details are really what make up your practice. And the fifth tip that I have for beginner witches is just to go with your gut. Now this basically means if you're doing a certain type of spell and maybe you feel you should do something in particular with it, whether that be saying a certain phrase, or you want to do something with the ashes, or maybe you want to add a certain herb to your potion, or just something like that. Anything that you feel that you should add to something, go ahead and do it. You should trust your gut, you should trust your intent whenever you're doing any sort of practice. If you are doing something and say it doesn't feel right, like say you're halfway through your spell and maybe you just don't feel either up to doing the spell, or maybe you just have a bad feeling about the spell, it's totally okay to just quit the spell, either do something else or just completely abandon whatever you were trying to do. It's okay to fail and also to succeed. A lot of the practice is trial and error, so if you're doing something and maybe it doesn't work, or maybe the outcome that you wanted doesn't particularly happen, or maybe the outcome that you want isn't coming true, or maybe it's not the exact outcome that you wanted. If you feel that this is happening during one of your spells or something that you're doing, it's okay to quit the spell and try and do something different. There's nothing wrong with starting over a spell, or thinking that if you're doing this one spell and maybe it doesn't work, it's okay to try it again. It's okay to try it a different way. If you feel that you need to do something, you probably should, because you're not going to have this feeling for nothing. It's called going with your gut for a reason. You should go with how you feel. And the last tip I have for beginner witches is to learn from practicing. You are not going to learn anything if you do not practice and you do not actually put into action whatever it is that you're trying to do. You can learn all the information you want, you can make all the grimoires that you need, you can do everything that you need to learn the knowledge, but if you're not putting to practice the knowledge that you're learning, you might as well not be learning it at all. If you're trying to do a spell and maybe it's not working, that does not mean that you cannot practice anymore, or you're not a good witch or anything like that. What that means is either your intent wasn't right, your delivery wasn't right, or you're just not doing it correctly. Now, that could mean either you're putting the wrong energy towards it, you're doing a spell wrong, or maybe just while you're doing the spell, your mind wasn't in the right state, so your outcome wasn't exactly what you wanted. If you want to be clear and precise with the outcomes that you want, and you want to manifest the specific thing that you want, you need to make sure that your intent in whatever you're doing is focused. Focusing on yourself and the actual thing that you're trying to do, that'll help you not only in your practicing, but it'll also help you with learning. It's a lot easier to learn different plants and everything when you're actually using them and experiencing them, and maybe going out into the wild and finding them and seeing the different stages that they're in when they're growing. This is a lot better to do than just say reading something and then just going off that information. It's a lot better to actually know hands-on what things do and what they're for. Yeah, that's the end of the video. If you would like a part 2, then I can do a part 2 of just a few more tips. I'm not going to be doing this type of video just because I feel like this is more subjective, and I would rather do videos that are more direct. If you would like to know something in particular, just leave it in the comments. But if I get a bunch of questions around the same thing and a bunch of people want to know a certain topic, maybe I'll do another one of these tips videos. But if you want to know anything in particular, just leave it in the comments and I'll make a video or leave you a direct comment about that. If you would like to know anything else about witchcraft or witchcraft related content, check out my channel, and if you would like to support me, go into the description down below and click my links and just help me out that way. Hope that you've been good over this quarantine. I know where I'm at and where I'm traveling to, the quarantine bans are going to be lifted, so if you're going to be in the east side towards the south, so Florida to Texas and around to California, if you're anywhere below there and you would like to meet me, that's where I'm going to be traveling next. Right now I'm currently in Northern Virginia, so if you're in Northern Virginia and you would like to contact me or anything, just leave that somewhere, contact me somewhere. But yeah, make sure to have a good day, night life, enjoy yourself, and be happy.